Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Jaya Girivaradari Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we will be reading from the King of Books, Grantaraja, Srimad Bhagavatam. The fourth canto, the chapter is 29, talks between Narada and King Prachinabharhi. The text number is 50, I think. Should be. If it's not, speak now or forever hold your peace. Harir Deha Pritam Atma Svayam Prakritir Ishvaraha Tat Padamulam Sharanam Yatakshemo Nrinam Iha. Harir Deha Pritam Atma Svayam Prakritir Ishvaraha Tat Padamulam Sharanam Yatakshemo Nrinam Iha. Harir Deha Pritam Atma Svayam Prakritir Ishvaraha Tat Padamulam Sharanam Yatahakshemo Nrinam Iha. Word for word translation says, Hari Shri Hari, Deha Britam, of living entities who have accepted material bodies. Big mistake. Atma, the supersoul. Svayam, himself. Prakritihi, material nature. Ishvaraha, the controller. Tat, his. Padamulam, feet. Sharanam, shelter. Wow. Yataha, from which. Kshemaha, good fortune. Nrinam, of men. Iha, in this world. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Hold on. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Sri Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supersoul and guide of all living entities who have accepted material bodies within this world. He is the supreme controller of all material activities in material nature. He is also our best friend, and everyone should take shelter at his lotus feet. In doing so, one's life will be auspicious. It's nice. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text number 61, it is said, Ishvaraha sarvabhutanam hrideshe Arjuna tishtati. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna. The living entity is within the body, and the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is also there. He is called Antaryami and Chaitya Guru. Antaryami. Antar means inside, internal, and Yami means controller. Yama and Yami. Yamaraj and Jamuna. They're actually siblings. Yamaraj is the brother of Jamuna, but they have the same name. As Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, he is controlling everything. Sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto matasminid kyanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Everything is being directed by the supersoul within the body. Therefore, the better part of valor is to take his direction and be happy. To take his directions, one needs to be a devotee, and this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadami bhuti yogam tam yenamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Although the Supersoul is in everyone's heart, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hridesha Arjuna Tishtati, he talks only to the pure devotees who constantly engage in his service. Wow. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is said, Tahare se bali vidya mantra adhyayana, Krishna parapadmeye karaye stiramana. One who has fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna is to be understood as having the best education and as having studied all the Vedas. There are also other appropriate quotes in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Wow, lots of Chaitanya Bhagavat verses here. Se vidyara phala janiha nishtaya, Krishna parapadmeyari chittavrittaraya. The perfect result of an education is the fixing of one's mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Digvijaya kariba vidyar karya nahe. Hold on. Digvijaya kariba vidyara karya nahe. Ishvare bhajile se vidya satya kahe. Conquering the world by means of material education is not desirable. If one engages himself in devotional service, his education is perfected. Pare kene loka Krishna bhakti jani bhare, seyadi nahi latabe vidyaya ki kare. The purpose of education is to understand Krishna and his devotional service. If one does not do so, then education is false. Tahare se balidharma karma sadachara, Ishvare se priti janme samata sabhara. Being cultured, educated, very active, and religious means developing natural love for Krishna. Everyone has dormant love for Krishna, and by culture and education, that has to be awakened. That is the purpose of this Krishna consciousness movement. Once Lord Chaitanya asked Sri Ramananda Roy what the best part of education was, and Ramananda Roy replied that the best part of education is advancement in Krishna consciousness. Are you trying to say something, Godrumagora, or are you just mesmerized by my beautiful face? All right, nice to see you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shita Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishapanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Again, the translation of this verse says, Sri Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the super soul and guide of all living entities who have accepted material bodies within this world. He is the supreme controller of all material activities in material nature. He is also our best friend, and everyone should take shelter at his lotus feet. In doing so, one's life will be auspicious. So Narada Muni is making the point that Lord is controlling everything, It's actually guiding your interaction with material nature. The jiva can't control material nature. We are not Ishvara. I don't actually control the hands, the body, the elements in my environment. Krishna controls them. But the super soul facilitates our interaction with material nature because I desire to open my mouth and say some words. The super soul being the controller of all material activity in material nature makes the mouth open like a driver or like a servant. In this way, Krishna serves all living entities by facilitating their sojourn through material existence and their fantasy and their illusion. Krishna makes all the arrangement because that's what we want, to be separate from Krishna. We want to experience what it's like to be the controller, the enjoyer. So Krishna sets up this whole Disneyland for us, where we can pretend like we're the center of everything. But we don't create these bodies. We don't create this environment. We actually don't have any interaction with them. We certainly don't have any mastery over the elements of material nature. But the super soul, Antaryami, controls everything. Just like if you tell a driver, now take me to this destination. And the driver goes there. So similarly, super soul being very close to everyone, very close. Sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto. He's right there in the heart. He knows exactly what we want. And therefore the body moves in this direction and that direction to apparently interact with material nature. But the jiva, the soul, doesn't actually contact material nature. That's just an illusion. We just think that we do. Like in a dream, kind of caught up in it. Oh, I'm Yasho and I'm a man and I have this stuff. But actually Krishna has all these things. Krishna possesses everything. He's the permitter and the overseer, right? The controller of all material activities and also the best friend. Let's see what he says himself about his position. You don't have to listen to Yasodeva. We can just hear what Krishna says in chapter 13 in the Bhagavad Gita. Let's have a look. In the Bhagavad Gita, baby, don't you know Krishna loves you? Ba, 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 da, da, ba, ba, ba. Surely I'm not the only one who has made the connection between that Iron Butterfly song. Where's the verse? Upadrashta Anumantacha Bharta Bhokta Maheshvara. Anyone know what number that is? I want you to come with me. Text 23 of chapter 13. Upadrashta, this is Krishna speaking himself about his nature as the Antaryami, the super soul. Upadrashta Anumanta cha Partha Bhokta Maheshvara. Paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purushaha para. Yet in this body there is another. In the previous verse, Krishna is saying the living entity is in this body, right? The jiva. But he says, in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul, Paramatma iti chapyukto. That's how he is known. It is said, Deheasmin is in this body, and he is the Purushaha Paraha, the real enjoyer. It seems curious to us that the person who drives the body would be the enjoyer. If you have a driver, a taxi or something, they're not meant to enjoy. They're just supposed to take you to the destination. You're supposed to be the one enjoying. But actually, we're dependent on the driver to get to the destination. And so how does Krishna enjoy? He enjoys facilitating the desire of the jiva. It's not that Krishna enjoys the material activity itself, just like the driver doesn't go with you to the destination, to the restaurant. The driver enjoys facilitating your transportation. Krishna enjoys, he's the enjoyer because he facilitates the jiva. He's helping the jiva. Not that Krishna enjoys our material activities. He's not like, wow, you're getting into Maya? Good for you. Wow, you're trying to squeeze a little more pleasure out of your decrepit body. Hooray. That's not what Krishna enjoys. But he enjoys trying to facilitate the jiva in their attempts and ultimately in their education. Because the super soul arranges for us to come back to him. The guidance of the super soul here, that's what Narada Muni says, the guide of all living entities of accepted material bodies. So he arranges for us to come back to him. That's his enjoyment. He's always there in the heart, watching, waiting, sending signals, connecting the dots so that we kind of wake up and go, oh, wait a second. I'm not in control and I'm not enjoying the material body. Something in my heart is telling me that this isn't right. This whole bodily concept of life just isn't right. So Upadrashta Anumanta, he is the overseer and the permitter. We cannot accomplish anything in this world without the permission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We cannot control the material energy at all. But the super soul facilitates all of that activity. So we should be grateful and render some service to the super soul by helping other people to remember the best friend. We can also be the best friend by helping others to remember their best friend. So when we talk to the devotees, let's not talk about mundane crap. This thing and that thing happened, blah, 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 blah. It just goes on and on and on. The dramas of today that we think are so important are not much different from the dramas of 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. Just, we think they're important because we're involved in it, because we're here now. But all this stuff will just go on and on and on. Samsara. So if we want to be the best friend of the devotees, we remind them to take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna, the super soul, in your heart, and everything will be auspicious. And we can remind other living entities who have material bodies and who know nothing of the Lord, remind them that their best friend is there in the heart. Should educate them, as being said by all of these Chaitanya Bhagavat verses, that this is real education. This is the real essential knowledge. It's not your degree in whatever outdated knowledge that you have from your degree from university. What is the term for it when it becomes outdated? Not redundant, obsolete, especially in any sort of science and technology, in the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, maybe not mathematics, but all the other technologies. You get a 4-year degree. By the time you finish, everything you learned is obsolete. You spend so much time studying a particular field, and by the time you get out of school, that field has just totally changed already. But you are $200,000 poorer as a result. University education is controversial, to say the least. Nowadays, there's really only football. And the football teams have a side hustle in which they sometimes educate people. That's how American universities work. They're just big football teams. And on the side, they do some classes, some YouTube classes, YouTube University. when the whole lockdown thing happened, all the students were talking about YouTube University, paying $200,000 to watch YouTube videos. Krishna consciousness. Of course, if we can use what we've learned in university in the service of Krishna, then that's really wonderful. And we can, of course, we can use practically everything in the service of Krishna. And that's why the real education, as being stated here in these Chaitanya Bhagavat verses, is to know Krishna and to connect everything to Krishna. I mean, that's really smart. That's really smart. So whatever skill we may have gleaned through school or through life, we try to engage that in Krishna's service. And it becomes so valuable. You really get your money's worth. At the very least, we can use our degrees, our educational qualifications to earn enough money to have a Krishna conscious life and to give Krishna conscious lifestyle to others. Work to give, not to get. So there is still some value in education in this world, besides football. But as is being said in this purport, if one cannot connect it to Krishna, then that education is not so valuable. Conquering the world by means of material education is not desirable. If one engages himself in devotional service, his education is perfected. So how can we use our skills in the service of Krishna? That would be amazing. It's something that ISKCON could do a lot better at, to be honest. I think we have a lot of skilled devotees, but like our general program is just give up all that and just be in the temple, be in the ashram. And that's great for some people. But for most, we could be using our skills in Krishna's service in better ways. Practically every skill that you would have learned in tertiary education has the ultimate goal of producing some money. So, we should be using those skills amongst each other. Creating an internal economy would be really fascinating. And then we can actually have Varnashrama Dharma. There's all this talk about Varnashrama Dharma, but if we're taking our skills and selling it to non-devotees, then we can't really have Varnashrama Dharma. If we were to have an internal economy in ISKCON, whereby you use your skill and you sell it to another devotee, and that devotee has a skill and they sell it to another devotee, then we could actually have Varnas. Because Varnas are about economy. It's all about having an economy. So that everyone can make a living with their skills. But nowadays, of course, we don't really act according to Varna. We just act according to whatever the free market decides is necessary at best. And you just get some money. And then if you have any spare time after working, then you might be able to act according to your nature a little bit. But Varna is all about economy. And we could have that in ISKCON. We could have an internal economy whereby devotees are serving other devotees with their skills and in that way making their living. And then we wouldn't have to spend a whole bunch of time worrying about how all the politicians are screwing us over with their reckless supervision of world economies, which has been proven quite a lot in the last few years, especially. The whole COVID pandemic kind of like ripped the mask off and revealed these people have no idea what they're doing. At best, or at worst, they know exactly what they're doing and committing, there's a term for it, social violence. Social violence is committing to policies which they know actually kills people. Poverty kills people. And so some of these so-called leaders of the world are committing social violence. Or at best, they're just really stupid and I have no idea how to keep everything flowing nicely. So if the devotees could have internal economies, they exchange goods and services with each other, then we would get a lot closer to the Varnashrama that's talked about in the Shastra. So someone should do that. Someone should try to create some network whereby devotees connect to each other's skills and goods. Amazon has changed the game Personally, I never, ever, ever, ever even click on their website, but to speak of purchasing something through Amazon. But they have demonstrated without a doubt that, you just need an online service. So why don't we have an online service for devotees to connect with other devotees around the world? Everyone puts their skills and their goods up there and try to have an internal economy. Someone should do that. Not me, of course. Someone else. If you get that started. Anyway, and then we can put our education to good use. We develop some skills and we can help others with those skills. And if we're able to create something, we can share that with the devotees. And then our education is perfect. As said it here in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, conquering the world by means of material education is not desirable. If one engages himself in devotional service, his education is perfected. So let's try to find ways to use our brains in Krishna's service. And the Lord is in the heart, ready to help. That's really the purport of this verse. That he's the super soul, the guide of all living entities. We just got to listen a bit. We got to listen to that Antaryami, Chaitya Guru, right? Ishvara Sarvabhutanam, Hriday Shirajina Tishtati. He's in the heart. He's very close. He's there for your friend. Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. We serve with some love, some devotion. Try to use your brain a little bit. Some affection. Then he gives us more intelligence by which we can serve better. So we got to listen. We got to be a bit more sensitive. Actually, Prabhupada says explicitly in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I won't be able to find it right now, but he says that for one who controls the mind and senses, then they can hear the super soul. Oh, one automatically takes guidance from the Lord in the heart. When one has controlled the mind and senses, one automatically takes guidance from the super soul in the heart. He says that the living entity must accept some superior authority and take that guidance. The conditioned soul accepts the authority of the 3 modes of material nature. It's pushing us around. And so when that lust strikes, we say, yes, whatever you say, O Rajaguna, I am your humble servant. And that lust gets into your brain and makes you do something stupid. But we accept the authority. Or the Tamagun, even worse. But for one who's controlled the mind and senses, then they automatically take guidance from the super soul in the heart. That's what's being described there. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Buddhi yoga helps us to understand him more and more. He wants to guide us. Antaryami. He wants to, that's what yami means. To control or to guide. Let's make it a little bit softer. Yama. Like yama niyama. And Yamaraj, the controller, controls everybody through death. So Antaryami, the internal guide, the internal controller, is there wanting to give assistance. And therefore he's the best friend. That's what Narada Muni is saying here, is our best friend because he can give guidance all the time. That's like a real friend, right? Friend is not just someone who satisfies your senses, tells you everything you want to hear. A friend is not someone who just follows you on Instagram, Facebook. Even though Facebook calls them a friend, we might go on Facebook and it says, you have 1,000 friends. I don't even know 90% of those people. That's not a friend. A friend is someone who can really help you, who can really guide you. So that's why the super soul, Krishna, is the real friend. Can actually guide you, can guide what word to speak. And I've had personal experience of this. And I'm not like fully in tune with the super soul all the time, but I'm saying there have been times where, especially in some sankirtan, some preaching engagement, some outreach, where I'm in front of a person or a group of people and I'm really just racking my brain, trying to use my intelligence, thinking, how do I connect? I have no idea what to say. So I pray to Krishna in the heart, say, these are all your living entities, your parts and parcels, and you are their best friend. You know them. So please guide me how to speak in such a way that will inspire them to remember you. And amazing things can happen. In book distribution, if we pray in this way, it's amazing how a total stranger will just connect in such a profound, life-changing way in a moment, because the super soul is guiding. Upadrashta Anumanta, the super soul is guiding that person in their heart too, saying, hey, listen. In the heart of the person who's receiving a book or hearing kirtan for the first time or hearing something about Krishna for the first time, the super soul is also in their heart saying, listen. He's the controller, the permitter, the overseer. He's guiding them, saying, hey, listen, you've wanted something more for so many lifetimes. You wanted something more than just materialism. Now's your chance. Listen, listen. And remarkable things happen. I hear it all the time. There's this one guy who comes to our Bhagavad Gita classes on Mondays, Ed Shah. Very interesting guy. He's like Chinese, grew up in Belgium, speaks so many different languages, big time activist. And I met him in the Hub building on campus, giving us some books. And he said this thing that I've heard from so many people. So many people have told me, you know, I never walk this way. Usually when I go to class, you know, people have their classes, they have routine. If you're going from this class to the next class, you walk down this path, not that path. So many people have told me, including this guy, Ed, I never ever walk this way. I usually go that way. But for some reason on this one day, I decided to walk through this direction. And then I ran into you. I got this book. And he's been coming for several semesters, studies Bhagavad Gita with us, chants in ecstasy. So that's tangible evidence. Why did the super soul guide him to do something out of the ordinary and come and hear about him? Because the Lord is the Upadrashta Anumantacha. He's the overseer and the permitter and the best friend. So we can have that experience all the time. Really quite remarkable how many people tell me something like that. I was just walking by and I don't usually do something like this, but I happened to come into this place and I heard the kirtan. So it's really remarkable, actually. It's fantastic. It's miraculous. It's so wonderful. So we can also be a friend by helping the supreme friend, Krishna. So that's what it means. Antaryami, the internal guide. Hare Krishna. Antaryama, Yama. Okay, I'll finish on this one point, which is mostly unrelated to everything I said so far, but Yama, as I said, Yama means Yamaraj. There's two siblings, Yama and Yami. They are both, their father is the sun god, Suryadeva. Yamaraj and Yami, Jamuna River. They're both children of the sun god, Suryadeva. Sun god, he weds Chaya. Chaya means like an illusion or a shadow, and produces these children, Yamaraj and Yamuna. I don't know if they both came from Chaya. Anyway, who wrote the Jamunashtakam? Okay, bear with me for a second. It must be Rupa Goswami, right? Whenever there's a really awesome piece of poetry, it's usually Rupa Goswami. Shankaracharya? No. Is it? Anyway, the first verse of the Jamunashtakam says, Pratarantaka patine vipati harini, Prakshayati papino pipapa sindutarini, Niramaduri pirapyashesha chitta bandhani, Mam punatu sarvadara vinda bandhu nandini. I'm going to end on a translation of this amazing verse from this amazing Ashtakam, this poetry, Yamunashtakam, which according to the internet is written by Shankaracharya. I would have thought it was Rupa Goswami. I have to look it up and confirm. But Braturantakasa patinebi patihan. Okay, first of all, it says, I offer my respects, Mampunatu, to Sarvadaravinda Bandhu Nandini. Sarvadaravinda, Aravinda is the lotus flower, of course. All the lotus flowers, the Bandhu, the friend of all the lotus flowers, is the sun. Sarvadaravinda Bandhu. the friend of all the lotus flowers, is the sun, and Nandini, the daughter of the friend of all of the lotus flowers. What sweet poetry. So this is the glorification of the Jamuna River. You might recall in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna left Vrindavan, apparently, according to the vision of everyone there. Krishna left Vrindavan, and in some wild ecstasy, certain persons killed themselves. Technically, I mean, it's all a little bit different in Vrindavan, but Srimati Radharani actually throws herself into the river Jamuna. It's a little esoteric. Well, it's not mentioned in explicit detail in Srimad Bhagavatam, but in other places. Describes that in the ecstasy of separation, Srimati Radharani is running all over Vrindavan saying, you know, where's my Krishna? And she thinks that she sees him over on Govardhan Hill, and she runs over, but it's actually just the dark colored deer, which is also called Krishna. It's a type of deer there. But then she thinks she sees Krishna down in the forest, and she runs over there. It's actually the tamala tree, which has a dark complexion like Krishna. She goes all over the place. At some point, eventually, she thinks that she sees Krishna waving to her from the Jamuna River. It's actually just the lotus flowers within the water of the Jamuna kind of waving with the river's current. But, you know, she's overwhelmed in this Mahabhava. And so she runs into the Jamuna River, thinking that she'll find Krishna there, and doesn't come out. She doesn't exit the Jamuna River. I can't really comment much on what's going on with Srimati Radharani at that time, but what we do know from Srimad Bhagavatam is that then she is delivered by Jamuna to her father, the sun god. And so she goes to the planet of the sun god, delivered there by Jamuna Devi. And therein, the sun god tries to console her. I think she's also with some of her girlfriends. Radharani is there with other gopis. And the sun god tries to console her, saying, you know, you like, for lack of a better explanation, you just killed yourself trying to find Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But don't you know that the Supreme Lord exists in the form of Narayan in the sun planet always? He's here, Surya Narayan. You know, he has a form that exists in the sun planet all the time. So he's here. You know, the sun god is trying to console Radharani in this way. He's here also in the form of Narayan. And one of Radharani's confidants, I believe there was someone else there, can't exactly remember who, kind of said, like, Narayan. You think Srimati Radharani has any interest in Narayan? She's only interested in Krishna. You know, don't waste our time with this Narayan character. So then the sun god, again trying to console Radharani, gives her a valuable jewel. It says here, you know, because, you know, she's a young girl. Young girls like jewelry. So the sun god's thinking, like, you know, let me try to give her something. So he gives her the jewel, to which Radharani's just like, practically tosses it aside. But, and then the sun god says, all right, I will help you to connect with Krishna. I'll arrange for you to see Krishna again. And so he delivers her to Satrajit in Dwarka, and says to Satrajit, you take this girl and you take this jewel and it'll all work out. So Satrajit receives the jewel which is called, what is the jewel called? Why is the Syamantaka jewel, and his daughter is Satyabhama. And you all know the rest of the story from Srimad Bhagavatam. Later, Satyabhama becomes wed to Krishna, and there's a whole thing with the jewel and how it produces so much gold and some intrigue and some controversy and all sorts of stuff. So Krishna enjoys more pastimes with the Syamantaka jewel and with Satyabhama. who was actually Srimati Radharani, who kind of ended her life, we can say. Of course, she always exists in Vrindavan also, but as part of her pastime ecstasy, she ends her life, enters in the Jamuna River, and is taken to Suryadeva, because Suryadeva is the father of Jamuna. So there we go. Mampunatu Sarvadara Vinda Bandunandani. The friend of the lotus, the friend of all the lotus flowers is the sun god, and the Nandini is Jamuna Devi. And the brother, Bratur Antakasya Patanebi Patiharim. The brother is Yamaraj. So this verse from Yamunashtakam says that Jamuna, she delivers everyone who sees her from having to see her brother. In other words, she frees us from our sins. Pratarantakasya patinebi papaharini. She takes away all that sin, all that papa, so that we don't have to see her brother Yamaraj. If you have a choice of which of the siblings to see, you should go to Vrindavan and see Jamuna. We don't want to see Yamaraj. We should offer all respect to his devotional service, but we should hope to see Yamuna, and then we don't have to see Yamaraj. Anyway, there's so many other wonderful verses about Yamuna in that Yamunashtakam, but that's the meaning, Yama and Yami. So Antaryami, the internal controller, the internal guide, is the super soul Krishna. Hare Krishna. I'm just all over the place now, so I should probably stop and ask if anyone has any comments or questions or challenges or retorts. You're allowed to disagree with me because I am nobody's guru, which is a nice life.
Hare Krishna yesterday.
Is that Leela Kishori Mataji?
Yes, it is. Good morning. Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful class. So enlivening.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. I would just so many wonderful points, and one of them that you made that really struck me, because my first degree is in a health field, and you can tell the difference when you're working, especially as a young person in the health field. There were people who I worked with who were in the field because of the love of helping, because they wanted to support people in getting better. And there were people who wanted job security and the ability to move around and moonlight and have a lot of money coming in. And you could see the difference in their work. And it made me think that, when we say devotional service, devotion is the first word. And so we do need to think about, are we serving with love and with devotion, and how is that showing? I loved your point about devotees, supporting devotees in business and in their endeavors. And I grew up in New York City, as you all know, and there were two communities in particular, one where it was sort of an unspoken thing that any money that went through the community had to pass through it 18 times before it left. So before I spend $1 outside of my community, I need to find 18 ways to at least support someone in it. And then there was another one that actually, way before the internet, had created sort of a manual, I guess you would say, or a yellow pages of their own, of people who did certain things that were in that community. So if they needed a plumber, they went to that, not the regular yellow pages or their neighbor. And so it sounds difficult, but it can be done. And I love that thought. And even in a small way, I know that, like my neck beads, or my Japamala, they were strung by devotees because they came from a devotee's site or a devotee's business. And, it could have come from a machine in another country and would have been way cheaper, but it wouldn't have been blessed. So, to think about those things. And then education, that knowing, even in the material world, when you're getting an education, you have a goal. You want to know where you're going. You're not going to spend $200,000 to come out with a degree in, I don't know, can't get a job. What am I going to do? You hope you're not going to. And so we need to remember, what's the goal of life? And if we know that, then, people say, like, it's all a lesson or a blessing. It's like, okay, so a lesson in what? what's it to say, oh, I'm getting all these life lessons to go where, like, to what end? And so it's a lovely point that you made in that, yeah, we need to be thinking about, what are we doing in Krishna consciousness? What is the goal? And then we will want to reach out and support one another and talk about higher topics, because anything else is like, I don't know, sitting in the cafe at college and playing bid whist. That's not why you're there. So, it's just really beautiful, wonderful points. I'm smiling. I'm going to be singing and chanting when I get off, because it's just been so enlivening. Hare Krishna.
Wow. Kishore Mataji, you are the epitome of enthusiasm and optimism. And every time you open your mouth, it just brings so much joy to the Sangha of devotees. So thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your experience I found it very interesting what you said about keeping money in the community, circulating it 18 times. I don't know how you keep track of that, but the principle is certainly so important. And historically, it's been shown to work. It's been shown to work, and it's very important. And we should try our best to do that, and not just expect mates rates from other devotees. We should be patronizing the temple. Of course, we have Gitanagari here. We should be purchasing Gitanagari's products. They have milk and boga for sale. We should be patronizing that. And in turn, the temple can also employ devotees, pay for their services. And that way we can try to keep an internal circulation. Otherwise, it's all just, going into Jeff Bezos' hands eventually. Or whoever's at the tippity top. Trickle up economics has been the theme for 50 or 60 years. So we have to try to do that and not just expect that, we're all friends, so you should just give your services and goods for free. No, we should pay for it. Like I noticed in the kitchen at Gitanagari, there was a package. It said Divya's, what did it say? Divya's super salad dressing mix or something. And I saw it and I thought, why don't I have this in my life? Why am I over here laboring like an ass making my own salad dressing when I could be getting some of Divya's salad dressing mix that she has? So I had to plan to go and purchase some of that. I don't know if you've got some of that, Mataji, available, but we'll buy some, and so we can use it at our programs up here, because sometimes we're trying to cook prasadam on a Thursday before the program. As Sarvatma Prabhu said, we're doing the schlepping program. That means we cook all the prasadam at home and then schlep it over to the center, and then schlep 2 screaming kids. So it'd be nice to just be able to whip up a salad dressing without having to think about it too much. That's just kind of my point. Like, if the devotees, so many devotees have great skills, but the devotees often aren't very good. Oh, there we go. They're giving me the website. All right, let me get my credit card ready. But oftentimes, all the devotees have such wonderful skills. And like Leela Kishore Mataji was saying, we have the inclination to put our heart into those skills. But more often than not, devotees aren't very good businessmen and businesswomen. We just don't have that ambition to kind of like dominate the market, and like advertise a lot. But everyone's got great skills. They just don't know how to get it out there. So we need to try to support other devotees and take advantage of their skills and show appreciation for their skills with money. That's how we have an internal economy. And that'd just be great. And I don't really know where to start on that, but except just trying to keep more of a consciousness of first patronizing the goods and services of the devotees before you just call out to some, big national brand that outsources everything to whatever, Philippines. Let's try to keep it in-house. And then that's how we move towards Varnashrama, really. Because we can't claim to be acting according to a certain Varna if we're not making a living on the natural inclination of the skills that come from our natural inclination. Otherwise, all we do is just talk about how I'm a Brahmana, you're a Brahmana, we're all Brahmanas, we're so much better than everybody else. That's the only Varnashrama we have right now. Hare Krishna. I don't mean to be rude, but okay, it's a little rude, but like 90% of the time someone's talking about Varnashrama, it's because they assume that they're the Brahmana and that they should tell everybody else how to do it. But I'm actually referencing His Holiness Shivaram Swami, who had made a really nice presentation about Varnashrama. And he's the one that said Varnashrama means economy. This is not just Yasodeva talking. It's actually His Holiness Shivaram Swami. He said we have to have an economy if we're going to have Varnashrama done. All right, on and on and on I go. Where will I stop? Nobody knows. So unless there's any other comments or questions, we'll finish here to give everybody a chance to stretch their legs, run to the little boys' room or little girls' room before darshan and kirtan. No, everyone's happy? Okay, thank you for tuning in. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.